Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. Chris Holman here, and coming to you from our studios at the Capital Region International Airport. We're going to stay in Lansing right now. Ben Bakken, who is the Senior Vice President of the Lansing Market, and he is the Director of that, TriStar Bank or Trust Bank, and Dewey Doyle, who is the Vice President of Investment Managers. So let's have you guys on, and thanks. It's good of you guys to join us. Welcome back, Ben, of course. You've been on a number of times. And let's start with you, Ben, if we could. Let's
Yeah,
look at some highlights for TriStar Trust Bank for 2025.
yeah, sure. It was another great year for TriStar. Chris, as you knew, we moved to our new location, our new office just a couple years ago and thought we had plenty of room to expand. And quickly, that's not true as we continue to grow and add good people, as we add, more clients and have been able to help a lot of folks. Traditional wealth management, financial planning, trust services that we do. We do a great job with investment management. That's Dewey's area of expertise. And then, as you know, Chris, we spend a lot of time with business owners, helping them with succession exit planning. So it was another great year for TriStar last year, and a lot of that had to do with the great performance that our investment team did as it related to the markets.
So, yeah, you recently, Ben, attended the 2025 Economic Forecast Breakfast. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I mean, wonderful event, Chris. And it was a balance of good news and candid, concerning news, things to be aware of here as it relates to Michigan. But there were optimistic parts, that were in there. Just certainly some areas that we need to pay attention to, especially as it relates to business owners and their sentiment. We would argue, again, that's a great reason why business owners should always be preparing for an eventual exit or transition well before the time when it's, ready to sell. So you never know what's going to happen in the world around us.
And it's not always when it's ready to sell, it's when the owner wants to sell. And that's not
That's
always
right.
the best timing. Dewey, let's bring you in on this from the investment standpoint and talk a little bit about that. What are kind of the projects for 26? What should we be looking at?
Yeah, and so we're looking at 26 kind of through the same lens that we looked at 2025. Beginning of 2025, we were going into a new administration and saying to our clients, hey, look, we think that the markets are going to end higher than where they started, but we think the ride there is going to be quite volatile. And we really believe that that was the case for maintaining a diversified portfolio. And it certainly was. Our argument was not weakened at all by what happened in 25. We started the year okay, but then we had, pretty significant dip in the S&P 500 in April with Liberation Day. But we also have to keep in mind that the MSCI AQUI ex-US, which is that international benchmark, had some pretty solid performance. We ended the year with S&P up almost 18%, but international markets looking at us were up almost 30%. The year started off the same way for 26. Now we're only a month in, so hold on. But S&P 500 is up 1.5%, whereas developed international is up 6.5. We're seeing kind of expansion in terms of performance. And I guess just one little anecdote in terms of since we're sitting here in Lansing, looking at international performance and thinking about international companies, our office is right here on Michigan between Cedar and Larch. And just north of us on Larch Street is a company, a German weapons manufacturer called Rheinmetall, which you may know at the end of September announced a $31 million investment here in Michigan. It's going to create about 450 jobs. So, again, taking away from that, from our meeting a couple weeks ago, thinking about the survey, I think still we have some positive things to think about here in Michigan as well.
I do agree with that. And when we do our survey, it's like across the board, all size businesses, et cetera. You're honing in on the investment aspect, and I think you're right. I think that went pretty well when you put it into that kind of microcosm. So you feel we're going to get similar performance in this next year?
We do. Yeah, we think that being a diversified investor is going to be what wins the day. we think about where we started today in terms of international outperforming domestic, and then even looking at style classes. For the longest time, it's been growth companies, growth companies, growth companies, but we've started the year and value is actually outperforming growth companies by a significant amount. So, being diversified is going to be what we think wins this race. And even thinking about Ben's kind of conversation that we're going to have in a couple of weeks, a diversified investor looking to exit their business. This is going to be an opportunity to create some tax losses to offset some capital gains that you might have from a sale of a business.
Thanks, Dewey. Appreciate it. Ben, you are going to be presenting at an upcoming speaker series for us. Tell me what people are going to come away
Yeah.
with. We got about 45 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Wednesday, February 18th. It's at the Capital Region International Airport in the Chris Holman room, and we'll be talking about the importance in exit succession planning of why we start early. It's not when I'm ready to sell. The day a business owner starts their business is the day they should prepare for their exit. How do I value my business? Who should my team be? What are my options for exit? It'll be a lot of information in a short period of time, very 30,000 foot, but hope get some business owners walking away with thoughts of next steps.
Well, and I hope it gets people thinking about planning for exit as opposed to having it just show up at your doorstep. Hey, Ben Bakken, thanks so much. Senior Vice President, Lansing Market Director for TriStar Trust Bank, and Dewey Doyle, who is the Vice President of Investment Manager and Investment Manager. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much,
Chris.
Chris.
You've been watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman.